The American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, for over 25 years, has chosen its charitable cause, to be domestic violence, and to really shed light on how the dental field can make a positive impact on survivors of domestic violence. And so we take the time in October to really shed light onto the issue of domestic violence. Many people don't know how prevalent it is. 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence. And so we take that opportunity to really increase awareness, not only of the issue of domestic violence, but also of our program. Although we've been in existence for over 25 years, I don't know that there's a lot of broad awareness of what Give Back a Smile is doing for survivors of domestic violence nationwide.
This is Associations Thrive, the podcast celebrating successful associations and their leaders. I'm your host, Joanna Pineda, CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. Listen in as top association executives tell all, revealing the creative and innovative ways they're increasing membership, generating revenue, nurturing engagement, and reimagining their organizations. By the way, if you've launched a new initiative, created new member services, or updated your governance structure and are seeing great results, I want to hear your story, and so do my listeners. I'd love to have you as a guest. Go to podcast.matrixgroup.net and apply to be on Associations Thrive. Now let's dive into this week's show. Today, I'm speaking with Lisa Fitch, Director of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry Charitable Foundation, also known just simply as the Foundation. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joanna. Thank you so much.
Lisa, tell us about the Foundation.
Sure. It's a mouthful. The American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry Charitable Foundation is the charitable arm of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, which is a membership association for cosmetic dental professionals. The foundation is a separately incorporated 501c3 from the association, and our main flagship program is called Give Back a Smile. And that's the sole reason for our existence, and where all of our time and resources are spent is the Give Back a Smile program, which restores damaged teeth for adult survivors of domestic and sexual violence. So that could be people who have been victims of domestic violence and they receive damages to their mouths and their smiles, chipped teeth, broken teeth, missing teeth. And what we do is we connect them with volunteer dentists who donate their time and services to restore their smiles at no cost. And we do this all across the United States.
Lisa, how long has the foundation been around? And what's your origin story? Like, how'd you come to be?
The AACD Charitable Foundation has been around longer than Give Back a Smile. It wasn't all that active when it was first established, but in the late 90s, there was an AACD past president by the name of Dr. Winnecuda in Hawaii that identified a need in his community. He noticed that victims of domestic violence had, damaged teeth and damaged smiles. And as a dentist, he said, you know what, I'm a part of this association, and I think there's something that we can do about it. And so he basically pitched the concept of Give Back a Smile, and the foundation was already in place. And it launched May 27th, 1999. So we actually recently just celebrated our 25th anniversary of Give Back a Smile.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Lisa, give us a sense of the scale. How many of these, treatments or operations are being done each year by how many of these dentists?
All across the country, we currently have about 160 survivors of domestic violence receiving restorative care. That changes every day. Each person receives a different type of treatment depending on what their injuries were. Sometimes a case can last a month and sometimes it can last years. But usually at any given time, there's about at least 150 people across the country receiving care. We process hundreds of applications. Actually, our volume just in the last 3 months has gone up by nearly 40%.
Wow.
We've recently really looked at our data and we've looked at where our program application process was providing unnecessary barriers. And we looked at those barriers and made some modifications to our application process. And the result was that more people have access and they're applying. So we are processing between 30 and 40 applications each month. Usually about just over half qualify for our services.
Well, Lisa, we're going to talk more about Give Back a Smile, but before we do that, let's talk about your journey. You've been at the foundation a long time. How'd you get to be director?
I just actually celebrated my 19th year with the foundation. So just over 19 years ago, the Give Back a Smile program was actually featured on the Dr. Phil show.
Oh.
Yes, which created a lot of attention to the program and a lot of volume, a lot of people applying. They needed somebody else to help manage the cases. And so my formal training is in social work. So I started as a part-time case manager, actually, and eventually worked through different positions within the foundation. And the leaders at the time took a chance on me. And when the director position became available, they trusted and believed that I could be that person. I was not sure that I was ready, but I made sure that I quickly became ready. And that's where I've been ever since.
Lisa, you wear two hats, though, because you're the director of the foundation, which means you're in charge of the foundation, but you've got another role at AACD. So tell us about that role and how does it work to have these dual roles?
So my main role is with the foundation, and I also work directly with the AACD's Nominating and Leadership Development Committee. So as I actually became the director, I went and sought a professional certificate in nonprofit management. I was like, I need to gather all of the information I can to really do this role well. I'm like, I'm going to get this certificate. And then I soon found out that all of the hours that I was earning from the certificate made me eligible to sit for the CAE exam.
Ah.
So I did. I took the Certified Association Executive exam way back in 2014. And I passed. And the AACD's executive director at the time was like, you know what? I think you'd be a really good fit to work with this group as well, with the nominating committee. And so I think professionally, that's good for me to utilize skills with the foundation and with leadership. Me being the face of the association's foundation, interacting and engaging with the association leaders and the foundation is really beneficial for the foundation and Give Back a Smile, and professionally too, to have influence and to utilize my skills with the foundation and the association. I find that to be fulfilling.
Well, it sounds like your training as a social worker, plus all your training in nonprofit management and being an association executive, make you pretty uniquely qualified to have these two very different roles.
Yes, and that is not where I envisioned my career going. I never thought that I would know so much about dental and the dental field as well. But it is really fulfilling to have such an influence and to do something and give back to the not only the dental community, but the general public. So having those skills is awesome.
Well, let's turn to the foundation. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this is obviously very tied to your mission. So what are you doing in October to build awareness, but also to really kind of forward the mission?
So the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry for over 25 years has chosen its cause, its charitable cause, to be domestic violence and to really shed light on how the dental field can make a positive impact on survivors of domestic violence. And so we take the time in October to really shed light onto the issue of domestic violence. Many people don't know how prevalent it is, 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence. And so we take that opportunity to really increase awareness, not only of the issue of domestic violence, but also of our program. Although we've been in existence for over 25 years, I don't know that there's a lot of broad awareness of what Give Back a Smile is doing for survivors of domestic violence nationwide.
For my listeners who maybe don't understand the connections, talk to us about the impact on a survivor of domestic violence from not having a beautiful smile.
We often say that bruises and scars fade, but broken teeth cannot repair themselves. And when we think about somebody experiencing domestic violence, you may think of black eyes or bruises, and the teeth matter. Having a broken or damaged smile and having to live with that for so long for many can be an everyday reminder for people who have experienced that violence. Every time they look in the mirror, things like self-confidence, employability. We very, very often hear like, I cannot get a job. Nobody will hire me because of my teeth. And so it's not just restoring a smile. It's essentially restoring a life, because once you have your smile restored, although it can be a very, very long journey to healing, that's one step closer to not only surviving, but thriving, and almost a sense of closure. And even for people who get their smile restored, if you've covered your smile with your hand for years and years, it's also a transition back into learning to laugh with an open mouth, learning to smile or not cover your. So we're just a part of that healing journey, a small but important part in it. Restore a smile, restore life.
Lisa, how do you facilitate this? So you said that you get applications, you review them, you approve them, and then what happens? Like, how do people get treatment? How do they reach out to your members? And who's funding all this?
We do have a very extensive application screening process with a lot of guidelines. So our program is intended for people who have transitioned from victim to survivor. So going to many, many dental appointments requires somebody to be in a place in their lives where they can make it to appointments, make it on time, all of that. And so not everybody's there yet. So it's really for people who are at that place. They have housing, they're in a stable living situation, because we want them to be successful in the program. And so once they complete our application process, then we have a case manager who, that is her whole job, is to work with all of the patients and the applicants and the volunteers. And so we have a database of available volunteers. So once they've passed the initial screening process, then we look at our database of available volunteers and we essentially refer them to the volunteer. And the volunteer dentist then takes it from there and they donate their time and services. And we're there throughout the whole process, supporting both the patient experience and the volunteer.
Lisa, is this 100% free to the victims or to the survivors?
Yes, there is a small application fee for people to apply, and that's essentially modeled after Habitat for Humanity, and just to have, an investment in what they're applying for. So on average, somebody receives between $10,000 and $15,000 worth of donated dental services. So there is a $20 application fee for people to apply for the program.
Oh my God, what an amazing investment and contribution to a person's life that your members are making.
Yeah.
How many dentists are involved in this program?
So we have about 300 dentists that sign up. We are always looking for additional volunteers. It's really for the dental offices, not just the dentist, it's their teams too, who embrace kind of a culture of philanthropy and who really want to make a positive impact in their office. And we're there really to support their whole journey because we want them to have a great volunteer experience so they continue to volunteer for the program.
Yeah. So you're accepting applications, you're doing extensive background checks and interviews, you're coordinating with all of your volunteers. You've got 2 people on staff. How are you doing all this?
We do. We have a very small but mighty team. It's amazing. I sometimes look at what we do, I'm like, wow, but we really work very well together. We work remotely, but we go into the office one day a week. And we take that day to really, really focus in. That's when we do a lot of our creative brainstorming. I'm exhausted at every Tuesday when we go into the office because we get so much done. But I think it's all about communication, and it's really hiring somebody who is mission driven, but also I think the beauty about working for associations or nonprofits is that many of us just land into these positions with many different skill sets before this and backgrounds. And so our organization is very, very grateful to have the other person on our team that not only presents with experience working with victims of domestic violence, but she also has many other skills that I don't possess. Some programming background. So we're able to take those skills and utilize that in really elevating what we can do for our patients in a very efficient way. That's actually been amazing and a huge benefit for our volunteers and our program recipients.
So I want to dive into something that you said, which was you're mostly remote, but once a day you go into the office, and that's your day for collaboration. So it sounds like you have a very intentional process for deciding what you're going to work on the day you're in the office.
We do.
Tell me about that, because that sounds really interesting, as opposed to saying, oh, it's just a random Tuesday and I'm going to go into the office, but it's my regular day.
Yeah. And we do. We're prepared. We're mentally prepared with our coffees, and we know like we're going to get stuff done today. And I think we both look forward to it. It's a time for us to connect as humans too. I think that's really important.
Yep.
Because we're a small team, we're working together. It's okay that we talk about our weekends and our families and all of that. I think that that's important to really connect as humans first. And the night before, it's usually me or sometimes her. We'll send a Tuesday list. Like, here's my Tuesday list.
Oh.
And she'll be like, okay, this is what I have. And then we go through the list. And sometimes we make it through all. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get sidetracked because things come up. But it is very, very intentional. It's things that we have been tossing around like, okay, next Tuesday, we're going to sit down and we're going to brainstorm this. We set energy aside to really focus on a lot of the big strategic items, actually.
Wow.
We just find that being face-to-face, we're more effective than a Zoom screen.
I love this. So you're making a list of the things that you think you will be able to knock out when you're together, or that somehow the energy of being together will allow you to get this done as opposed to working remotely.
Exactly. And our culture does very much value flexibility, working remotely. So it's just a different mindset, I think, and we're prepared for it. There aren't any surprises. We go and we tackle the big things usually.
Lisa, you also said something really significant during the prep, which was that you're a very data-driven organization. What does that mean, and what data are you looking at?
About 2 years ago, it was time for us to invest in essentially like a case management database to implement our Give Back a Smile program. Before that, we were piggybacking on the association's membership database, essentially, but it really didn't fit our needs. We're different, right? So we did a lot of research and we found a wonderful, wonderful program and vendor. And that has exposed us into this like amazing wealth of data that we have. And what's amazing is that we have control over our own data. It's a team of two. And so we have no choice but to run our own reports, which is really, really empowering. And so I think both of us on the team love data, and we get excited to go over the pivot tables that we've developed on our Tuesday morning meetings. And a lot of that is to measure our impact. Historically, like, we know we're making an impact, we're doing great things, but one thing in particular is that we're sending assessments. So this new tool has allowed us the opportunity to send assessments as somebody goes through our program. So the beginning of their case, we ask them how things are going, very specific questions. And then by the end of their case, we can have data-driven, data-backed results on what was the true impact that our program has provided you. We don't have enough data quite yet to come to those conclusions, but we're getting close. So that's been something that I think will be awesome to share with funders, our board, and it can show us where we might need to make additional tweaks or modifications in our process and in how we approach implementing our program.
Are there any insights that you've already gleaned from the data that you've acted on?
A lot of the data has to do with, I touched a little bit on this before, we have an extensive pre-screening process. So we're always walking the fine line, almost like a tightrope, is that we have this charitable service that we provide to people who are in need, but we also have a volunteer base who, without them, we cannot provide charitable services. So we're balancing the needs of both parties, essentially. And so our screening process has to be one to where our volunteers are most likely to have a fulfilling volunteer experience. And our goal is to help as many eligible applicants as we can. So we look at this data, and so we noticed that there was one aspect of our screening process that was a barrier. It was an unnecessary barrier. But we were also noticing that another aspect of our screening, that they were more likely to, let's say, miss appointments once they got to the dentist, which our volunteers are not happy about that, of course.
Right.
They set their time aside. So we looked at that data and we said, okay, we're going to add this step to our screening process. It's actually a pre-screening call with our case manager. And so she has a phone call with every single applicant that gets that far because they need to show that they're in a place where they can make it to appointments. If they can't make it to the dental appointments, it just might not be a good time for them to be in the program. They have other life priorities, and that's okay. So we looked at our data. We saw barriers that we could eliminate, and then some areas where we really needed to tighten up a little bit to increase the likelihood of their success through the program.
Well, Lisa, what an amazing program you run. I am so happy to help tell the story of the foundation and give back a smile. How do people learn more and how do people make a donation?
Thank you, Joanna. We're really, really grateful for the opportunity. Our website is givebackasmile.com. There will be opportunities. If you happen to be a dentist and you're interested, there are opportunities for you to sign up to accept a Give Back a Smile patient in your office. And then there is also a donate button. So we rely on both financial support and volunteers to implement our mission. And we can't thank our supporters enough.
Well, Lisa, since this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I can't think of a better interview to have had this month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Associations Thrive. We're so glad to have you here. You know, my personal mission and the mission of my company, Matrix Group International, is to help associations and nonprofits increase membership, generate revenue, and thrive in the digital space. I want to hear stories of how your organization is thriving in today's challenging landscape. Please apply to be on my show by going to podcast.matrixgroup.net. By the way, do you need help with a digital initiative? Maybe it's a website redesign, a new membership database, or a hybrid meeting that you're planning. I'd love to connect with you. Please visit the Matrix Group website at matrixgroup.net. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Associations Thrive. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating, post a comment, and share it with your colleagues and friends. Bye!